So before we start this episode about United for Alice, we thought it'd be important to highlight the unitedway.org as a possible place for you to either volunteer or donate your time in this holiday season.
I think United Way does a lot of great work. And when you go to unitedway.org, you can find your local chapter and either give directly to your local chapter or find ways to volunteer to help those people in your community. They do a great job of helping those people in disaster situations, in tornadoes, floods, hurricanes. But they also do a lot of good within the community with the people who need it most in your local community. So during this holiday season, if you are so inclined and have someone that have a little extra money or time that you would like to donate, United Way is a great organization. Nicole and I both wholeheartedly would encourage you to find it in your hearts to give of your time or your talent or your treasure.
It's unitedway.org, and we will put it in the show notes. And we hope you enjoy this episode. Thank you so much. She's a conservative, and I'm liberal, and yet we've been friends for almost 40 years. Everyone says you shouldn't discuss politics, religion, or money, and we say that's exactly what friends should be talking about. Join us as we tackle the conversations you're having in your head, but are too scared to say out loud. Hello, Jolene.
Hello, my friend Nicole.
Welcome to We've Got to Talk.
Thank you for joining us today for We've Got to Talk. This is a topic that was given to us by a friend of mine who works for the United Way. And they have a program that she really wanted to hear, from a conservative perspective and the liberal perspective, talking about this program. And I love this because I feel like it's something, number one, I don't feel like there's enough discussion around this topic. So I think it's good. And I think it's good for us to talk about, to get the perspective, but I think also good just to get this topic out into the open. And what I'm referring to is a program that the United Way has dubbed Alice. I think in the past, we have referred to this group of people as the working poor. It's really meant to encompass the asset-limited, income-constrained employed. So again, people who fall above the poverty level, yet still under a level that is working, that they can afford the basics in life. I love this because as a Republican, I feel like this is exactly the group that needs the most help. I think these are people that are working. They're not looking for a handout. They're not sitting around collecting a government check. These are people that are working and raising families and trying to make ends meet, and they're not there yet. And so what are the resources that are available to them to be able to make ends meet? And United Way, I think, is doing a fantastic job of putting together, curating this program to help this group of people that is a large group.
So, because I love a trusty whiteboard, here is Alice. Can we see this? Alice. It's asset limited, income constrained, employed. And just to give you all a brief history, because honestly, Kirby had said, I hear about this in the liberal take, but not in the conservative world. And as a liberal, I had actually never heard of this program. And so thank you, Kirby, for your endless support and letting me email you multiple times to understand what this was.
Yes, she is so smart, and she's such a resource for us on this topic. But I think she spent a lot of time with the United Way, and she does such great work with the United Way. So,
what she was explaining is that the United Way has its own chapters. Like, she is the public. What did she say she was? She is the public information officer for the United Way of Louisiana. Kirby wanted us to make it clear that Alice is more of a movement than a program. That when the banks crashed in 2008, the United Way of Northern New Jersey their county is one of the wealthiest in New Jersey. They have a low poverty rate. But what they noticed was this strain all of a sudden for social programs. People were in need and they couldn't figure it out. And so they started asking questions and doing research to figure out what was going on. And what they noticed was this group of people, and in 2023, in terms of the entire United States, 13% live below the poverty line. Those 13% can apply and receive subsidies, help from the federal government.
So think Social Security, think SNAP programs, welfare checks, that type of thing.
And also in 2023, 29% of households in the United States are in the ALICE grouping. So if you add the 13% and the 29%, in 2023, and the numbers have not changed, 42% of U.S. households can't afford basic needs. Now, what does that mean? Safe, affordable housing, quality childcare and education, adequate food, reliable transportation, quality health care, reliable technology, and savings. So here is, we can just take the 29%, which is quite large, a group of people who are fully employed, sometimes have multiple jobs, and have to choose between medicine, childcare, healthy food, or don't even have access to healthy food, as we've talked about in other episodes previous to this. And she said, when a community is stable, the ALICE population thrives. And it made me think, work with me here, but it made me think about during the pandemic, when President Trump, here's a liberal saying this, when President Trump put out those like money to people to be able to survive at the beginning. And I remember my father receiving money, and it was a lifesaver during those first couple months in the pandemic, and how a lot of people were at home working remotely, and people were spending money. And when you spend money, the economy thrives. Like it's a positive ripple effect.
Right.
So that when you're with these ALICE households, here's some other numbers for you. 16 million people pay more than 30% of their income on rent and utilities. And one thing I thought was interesting is that there is no race discrepancy. It is free game. It's almost equal. Whites, blacks, Asians, Latinos, like they all are equally struggling. And yet we have also more billionaires than we've ever had. And yet we have 42% of this country that can't make ends meet.
So I think the other thing that this ALICE program does that is really shedding a light on this is they're really taking it state by state and then county by county. Between 2007 and 2024, household essentials were 19 to 29% more expensive in urban areas than in rural areas. And by 2025, basic household goods were most expensive in the West and the Northeast, less expensive in the South, but the least expensive in the Midwest. So trying to have the federal poverty level kind of as a national standard obviously affects people in New York differently than someone in, Blue Eye, Missouri. So I think that's the thing that ALICE has really kind of dialed into this on a county by county level to be able then to give the resources available to those who need it the most.
And the ALICE movement now it has grown from the one county in northern New Jersey to 39 states plus DC. And Kirby's state of Louisiana, she was explaining, is 51st when you're counting DC. And New York City, New York is 49th. And for instance, like the Bronx, 74% of those households are Alice households. They can't afford their basic needs. New York City is so expensive.
Right.
And then Nassau County is 33%. And then today I emailed her and I said, who's number one? Like, who's doing great? And she said, and in our house, we were having a bet. Oh, it's got to be this state. It's got to be that state. And we were all wrong. She was saying North Dakota. It was North Dakota followed by Alaska and DC. And they're still at 33%. So still 33% of their people live in this Alice section. What
category.
Would you call it? Population. Yeah. I'm curious about something, Jolene. What is the income to be below the poverty line in order to get subsidies from the government?
For the 48 contiguous states and DC, the 25 poverty level for a single person is $15,650 and increases by $5,500 for each additional family member. For Alaska, though, it's $19,500, and for Hawaii, it's $17,900. Oh, and then you can do the math for, so a one-person family, a single person, it's $15,650. So
that's below the poverty line. Those are the people that have access to benefits.
That is the poverty line. Yep. So
that
anything below that. Correct.
So I'm curious, Joe, because that is so low. Does it make sense to raise this line? These are just working people where the wages are not increasing to match the cost of living. A lot of states' minimum wage is really low and has not moved up. You know, each state has its own minimum wage, right?
So yes, I think we found out in our research that the federal guidelines were developed in 1965 or something like that, and the parameters that they take a look at haven't really changed since then. And I think that's the other part of this Alice program, is to really help identify, you know, what are those different categories to which people need help. And you had talked about, you know, housing, healthcare, childcare, insurance. I think it's interesting, though, to look at this from our different perspectives, because I would say, as the conservative, let's develop the programs. Let's give to these programs that are best suited for their individual communities, because I think your point was the economy and the society does better when this Alice group becomes smaller, right?
When people are able to feel safe in their homes and they can afford things and they can save a little bit of money, they then buy back into the community.
And I'd say the converse is true. You know, people, when the community does better, these people do better as well. Yes. And I think that's the beauty of the United Way. They have these programs already developed in the communities to which they have the people that they can help. And so when you are an individual or a corporation or a foundation, or this is a great way to give to your community, because these are people that are on the ground and helping distribute these funds and develop the programs that are going to help the people the most. They're designed to help the people in that community, instead of, you know, just an overarching, oh, let's raise the federal poverty level and give everybody a raise. That's why I, as a conservative, really like this program.
I think it's absurd how low the poverty line is, but I also, even though I am a liberal and I'm a Democrat, I do believe that people thrive when they are in charge of their own destiny. I don't think that giving handouts helps people. I think, you know, teach people how to grow their food. Don't just give them food. Like that kind of like self-determination. I think it's just a human thing to me, that's how someone thrives and goes through the world.
in a Christian sense, we say, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, but teach him to fish and he can feed for a lifetime. So you're absolutely right. Let's develop these programs or look at these programs that will help get people out of poverty.
Her particular United Way of Southeast Louisiana, she said,
which is, I'm sorry, and now I just interrupted
please.
you, which is the New Orleans area. I mean, if you're not familiar with the geography of Louisiana, that's really, it centers on New Orleans specifically and the surrounding area.
She says, one example is it's called Home for Good Partnership with the City of New Orleans. The initiative set at an ambitious goal of housing 1,500 individuals by the end of 2025. And as of August 2025, 1,326 people have already moved into homes, bringing the city within reach of its target well ahead of schedule. This success is built on 3 pathways to stability: closing encampments by moving residents directly into housing, accelerating exits from the city's low barrier shelter, and rapidly connecting all other unsheltered individuals to permanent housing. She says, our United Way has played a critical role using millions in public grant dollars to facilitate 200 rapid rehousing placements, offering 1-year rental subsidies, supportive services, housing navigation, and case management to ensure individuals are housed, employed, and supported toward long-term success. Already 136 placements are complete, with the remainder expected by October. This work has transformed the city's low-barrier shelter, allowing beds to turn over more quickly, long-term stayers to transition into housing, and new individuals to access immediate support. Together, these efforts are proving that with urgency, investment, and collaboration, New Orleans can create lasting solutions to homelessness. And then I'm going to say one more thing. All that to say, if we want to create a country where fewer people have to rely on safety net programs to survive, this is her saying to all the We've Got to Talkers, we need to support their trusted, proven nonprofits doing this type of transformative work. Donating to a single food bank will make a difference, but the systems change work needed to turn the tide on Alice's biggest challenges requires significant investment too. Government grants will come and go, going more than we'd like, but it's the individual donors that have real staying power.
So 10% of United Way, and they're all different because they all act as a different entity, but around, and this is for the United Way in the New Orleans area, about 10% of their money comes from federal grants. There is not a single line item in the federal budget that goes to United Way as a whole. So it's in the form of grants and contracts. So only 10% of their funding comes from the federal government. So the other 90% comes from state grants and contracts and foundations and individual donors and corporations. And I think that's one of the things that United Way does such a great job of is kind of working with that private-public partnership of with companies where you can automatically give from your paycheck, you can give a certain dollar amount or a certain percentage every paycheck to the United Way. And, all the big companies, the big corporations in America are big United Way givers, and United Way does a lot of good work. I think going back then to the conversation of what is it that we could really do to help these people to get them out of this space, and is it a jobs program? Is it education? Is it that you've got to earn more? I mean, if you are working, as a cashier at the grocery store or, minimum wage job, you're right that you're probably not going to make enough to, if you've got a couple of kids, to be able to support them and especially in an urban area where their costs are so much higher. So, continuing to give in opportunities that allow for people to get a better education or to get opportunities for jobs that will increase their income has got to be the priority as well. And I love that United Way is doing programs to help them with, finding affordable childcare, finding somebody to do their taxes for them, finding...
I've used that VITA service, that Volunteer Income Tax Association.
Oh, really?
Yes. I didn't realize that was a United Way program. And as an actor, a young actor, and I was super poor, and I certainly didn't know how to do my taxes. And Actors Equity, the theater union in New York City, I mean, it's a national union, I would go and work with VITA, and they would do my taxes for me for free. And it was one less stress in my life. And so it was exciting to see that program was from them as well.
That, I think, from again, going back to the Republican perspective, I have on here, in the United States, nonprofits receive a total of $267 billion in government grants. So we fund a lot of programs. The taxes that we are paying is funding a lot of government, or a lot of funding programs for nonprofits to receive money to be able to help those in their communities. And I think the focus needs to be on getting help for these people to, and I've put on here expanding the work requirements for welfare programs and supporting apprenticeship and job training and help promoting small business growth, stable two-parent households, significantly reduce the likelihood of children growing up in poverty. And I think, promoting marriage initiatives and reducing the marriage tax penalties in the welfare system. And then, of course, when we start talking about schools, expanding charter schools and school vouchers and educational savings accounts, because giving the parents in these poor urban areas, if your only choice is to send them to the public school because that's what they can afford, if they're not getting a good education, we're not starting them off on the right foot from the very beginning.
I have to push back here, Jolene, because
I thought you might.
Telling people that get married, she in the research that Kirby gave us, 76% of the Alice population are single mothers in her Louisiana, Southeast Louisiana. The Alice population was single parents. This I thought was interesting. Single parents, adults living with other people with no children, and a huge section were people over 65 years old. Mm-hmm. And that population is growing more than the other populations, whether you're married or not. I am not a huge charter school fan, having lived in New York City. I don't think they're very good. I think I would prefer that we figure out how to make our public schools good again. That's where I definitely would push back, because it's such an enormous, what I appreciated with Kirby was she was like, find a group you're passionate about and give to that program, because that will help an enormous sector. She wasn't saying just go, deal with food or just deal with medicine. If you want to help, giving to these, whether it be helping to bring organic produce or farmers markets to underserved areas, making sure that people in underserved areas have cell service, have access to technology. You know how much we rely on technology? Internet. And if you don't, then you can't find that job and you can't move forward. Or if you want to give money to access to really good child care. Or another thing that I thought was fascinating was that an enormous population has to commute at least 30 minutes to a job, and they don't have reliable transportation. They might not even have a car. They might not have access to if they're in an urban area, it's not the most convenient transportation. It didn't seem to matter where you put your money, but if you're helping in a larger sense, you will help all of us flourish.
I don't think we have to take a side here. I think this is a really good program.
Yeah.
Because they're set up to help these people, but I don't think this is the only solution. I mean, I think the solution is actually bigger. The underlying cause is that people don't have good enough jobs that are paying enough for them to be able to afford the health care and the affordable housing and the food and all that. So,
well, and there also isn't enough affordable housing.
well, and it depends, again, this then depends on where you live and all
for
that.
Sure.
So I think this is a great program for the circumstances that people are in, but what we really need is how to fix the situation that they're in.
Yes. I mean, she did say, she was like, she said, Alice is about changing the national dialogue about financial hardship. That I think possibly we as Americans think about the poverty line and that those are the poor people and that they're getting help. Like, is that how you've thought about it? And she's suggesting that this Alice movement, that including the 13% of the under the poverty line, that there are 42% of households in America that cannot get by.
Right.
Which is
absolutely
huge, right?
These are people that need help, and they're what we used to call the working poor. They need help, and programs like the United Way, then there are resources out there to help this group of people. And there's also, there are churches that have soup kitchen, I'd call them soup kitchens, but I mean, our church does a garage sale but then gives everything away to the poor. I mean, there are these programs locally to help this group of people. And it's great that the United Way has addressed really specific programs of housing and childcare and tax help. But the real issue is getting people to make enough money. And so what are the programs that we really should be focusing on to prevent this group from even getting into this position, right? Because, I mean, I'm sure the United Way would rather give their money to disasters. United Way in New Orleans did such a fantastic job whenever we had hurricanes and other areas or storms or floods or, whatever it is, that the United Way has all these resources that come together to get diapers and food and all of the things that people need in a time of crisis. I think we need to take a look at this from a larger perspective and say, what are the things that we can specifically do to help people make more money so that they're not in this program to begin with? One of the things that I found was the opportunity zones that were created under the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that allow investors to receive tax benefits if they put money into businesses, housing, or development projects in low-income communities, such as investing in a grocery store in what is known as a food desert area. The reason we have food deserts in urban areas are numerous. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons. But if we, as a government, then, if we're incentivizing people who do have money, these investors and people who want to revive these communities by giving them the tax benefits to invest in businesses and housing and development projects in these areas that benefit the people that are living in that area.
I would totally agree that helps. I know that there's so much red tape. Ezra Klein wrote a book called Abundance that just came out this year. And it's all about the government bureaucracy and red tape, and he follows this California initiative where they were going to build bridges and it's taking forever and nothing ever gets done. So
Yep.
I am with you, girl. Like, to me, I am still a liberal and I am still a Democrat, but to me, I feel like the more we do this podcast and the more we talk about these issues and the more divisive this country feels. I truly, when you talk to people, I don't think it's as divisive as the social media portrays it. I'm pro-human and I am pro-American. I am also not naive. I am aware that money talks in this country, period. Full stop, done.
Yep.
And if there is a way to find the private sector and the public sector to create, more grocery stores in urban areas, more health clinics in rural areas, more like all the lists that we talked about. When communities thrive, we all thrive. And people, when, as I said to you, I guess before, and it was a Trump thing during the pandemic, he sent out, were they credit cards or something? I can't remember. It was like a Visa gift card.
No,
or
we
something.
actually got a check. I mean,
got a check?
however you did your taxes is like if you had an automatic deposit on your tax refund, that's where the government just gave you a check.
When people feel secure, they are consumers.
Because if you get those people in this Alice sect that we're talking about, and you get them to make more money, then they're contributing to the tax base that's helping your schools and is helping the fire department and is helping the police department, and they're spending money at the grocery store and they're buying things at the hardware store. And you're right. It helps everybody.
If 42% are struggling, which is a ton of people, and 58% of us can help, let's help. And even better, because money talks, make these be tax breaks so that the 58% are encouraged to make these programs thrive.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. This is not a liberal thing. This is not a Democrat thing. This is not a conservative thing. This is not a Republican thing. This is a human American thing. Look at your brothers and sisters and be like, okay, let's all, because everyone wins. No one's getting a handout. People are living in safe, affordable housing. The affordability in housing in New York and California and Utah, for that matter, it's bananas. And also healthcare. We know healthcare is so expensive for those of us that can make ends meet. We're strained. And there's an enormous amount of people that are uninsured because they can't afford it. They've got to feed their kids or pay the rent, and then, God forbid, you have to go to the emergency room or you have to go to the hospital. You're done.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah.
So give to the United Way in your area.
And if you can't afford to give money, go give of your time. They need help. I mean, but your local food pantry needs help. Your church needs help. Synagogue. I mean, there are absolutely opportunities for you to help your neighbor that you may not even know. And by giving up your time or your talent or your treasure, this is absolutely an area where we need to do a better job of, as Americans, giving of ourselves to help everybody else.
That's a really good point, Jolene, because, thinking about our How America Got Mean episode and the amount of disconnection we are feeling, the disconnected, lonely mass shooters, people that are killing, whether it's Charlie Kirk or whomever, they are disconnected. And the thing that you can do to get away from your screens, walk away from your screens, touch grass, as Spencer Cox says, and give your service. We need to remember that we are just we're a small part of a whole community. And when you give your time, God, it feels good.
So Bobby yesterday volunteered. Her church has a person who feeds the homeless every Saturday morning. And so this was the first time that Bobby had volunteered. And this is in Tampa, Florida. And Bobby then was talking to the lady who heads this up. They served 150 people. And she said, this lady makes these meals in her home, and every week it's different. And it's whatever she has, whatever somebody has donated. And she said, this week we got a bunch of rice. So we're doing rice and beans burritos this morning. And I made them all up last night. She spends her Friday doing all these meals so that Saturday morning they can pass them out. And you're going, she spends 2 days really then, this woman God bless her, Friday and Saturday to go and feed the homeless. You think that she's, concerned about what's going on in the world when you're that close to helping people who really need the most help? I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. Which reminds me of I Have a Good for the Soul, which is very similar to this.
Let's hear it.
It's this past Ezra Klein episode. I will put it in the show notes. He interviewed the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox. Listener and viewer, please watch this, listen to this. And Governor Cox, as I said before, he's a Republican, and we could really all learn from him. He spoke with such grace about what's going on, not only with how he dealt with the Kirk assassination, but how he's dealing with his life. He mentioned Utah is the #1 state in service and in charitable giving. And, he sort of reminded me as I was listening about how important service is. I've, worked in the kids space. I love kids, and I've worked with foster kids, and I've worked with Drama Club NYC, and it is the most fulfilling work to help someone else. And one thing that Governor Cox said that I thought was wild, and I loved it, was he says, "My wife and I are 12 years sober." And he paused a second, and I was like, I don't think you drank. And he goes, "We are 12 years sober of watching cable news." He said,
Wow.
He said, "My wife and I were addicted to Fox News, and it was killing our marriage. It was killing our marriage. It was killing our family. It was killing the whole thing. We stopped. We've been sober for 12 years, and everything is better." He's like, of course, he has to watch some news because he's the governor. But, now, as we've talked about on this podcast, there are so many incredible resources these days of media companies that are really trying to just tell the news. And because of this podcast, I feel so grateful for delving in a different way, that I'm not nearly as reactive, and I'm seeing my lefty media just as bending the truth as the right is, and it makes me pissed. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I used to just think that the left media was correct and the right media was skewed, and now we both are seeing all the time that so much of the left and the right media is just changing the narrative just slightly to piss you off so that you keep clicking or you keep watching and that you keep hating each other, right? So anyway, Ezra Klein, I'll put it in the show notes. Governor Cox, he is a politician just like James Tallarico, the Texas state legislator who's running for Senate. I'm just going to, throughout this podcast, shout out impressive politicians. There aren't very many. And I'm really excited when people...
That is a good idea.
Right? So I'm going to say Republican Governor Spencer Cox, right on, my friend. Keep doing what you're doing. Democrat James Tallarico, keep doing what you're doing. So that's my good for the soul.
I love that because I also think that has... obviously has come about since the Charlie Kirk assassination, but so many people are saying the same thing. It's suddenly we're looking at the fringe of both of our parties and going, sorry, you guys have got us in this mess. Nope, we're going to be we're tired of being the silent majority, and now we're going to be the ones that go, no, we're done with y'all. Quit being idiots, and we've got this from here. Thank you.
And I think it's important to shout out people that you might not necessarily agree with. That you're like, oh, I like what you had to say, or I never, as Monica Guzman, who we're going to interview, I never thought of it that way. I think that stuff is really important, right?
Okay, my good for the soul is Plumes Officiel. I don't know that that's actually how you say it, but that is how I would like to say it. But it is PLUMESOFFICIEL on Instagram. Plumes Officiel. Official. Or Plumes Official. I don't know. It's however you want to say it. It is a man who usually he plays a guitar and he sings to animals. And like he'll sit at a zoo, and depending on the animal, he'll either sit inside the cage or outside the cage. Have you seen him?
Yes.
And
it's amazing.
It's the reaction of these animals to music is so. I mean, I have gotten to the point this past week where I was so emotionally spent.
Yes.
That I couldn't take anything. I couldn't take anymore. And so I just started watching any dog video that came through my feed. I was pushing it and watching it and sending it and liking it and commenting on it, because that's all I want my feed to be is dogs. Because that just makes me happy and feel good, and that's all I needed. And so then all these things so then I'm getting a lot of animals now, and I absolutely love it. And it's so great. It's like jacking with the algorithms of social media. And so there you go. I'm not getting menopause stuff anymore. I'm not getting political stuff. I'm getting dogs. And it's fantastic. He puts a lion to sleep. I mean, it's so awesome. It truly is. Please don't tell me that it's AI. If somebody says that the whole thing is AI, I'm going to be so sad.
I don't think so.
I think it's truly, I think it's all real. Okay, good.
Because animals, they love music. Yeah. Who doesn't love music?
Okay, good. Do you have a would you rather?
Would you rather have Beyonce's talent or Mark Cuban's business sense? It's a good one, right?
I've had a crappy work week, and so I'm going to have to go with Mark Cuban at this point. And so, yeah, I'm going to have to go. I mean,
I'm a huge fan of his.
I'd love to sing like Beyonce.
I want Beyonce.
Oh, really?
Oh, I want her talent. Are you kidding?
But you love Mark Cuban?
I love him. I do.
Oh,
huge fan.
Good. Okay.
Do you like him?
Okay.
There's a great.
I don't know that I know enough about him.
I saw a great documentary about him on the plane, and I will see if I can look it up and put it in the show notes. I learned so much about who he was and what he.
Yeah, you sent that to me.
And he's a really great businessman. He knows how to pivot, which I think is really important. We don't do that enough.
Right.
Right? When you, like, the chips are down and you're like, I'm going to hold on. And he's like, let's, I love his Cost Plus Drugs company where he's giving, I'll put that in the show notes, affordable drugs for people.
Great.
I think it's great. That's right. I did tell you, because at the end of the documentary, he actually gives you his email address. And this was in 2022. I don't know if his email address has changed. So what do? I wrote him to ask him, to tell him about We've Got to Talk. I haven't heard back yet. That doesn't mean we won't.
Oh.
Mark Cuban, come on board and We Got to Talk, and we can talk to you about
Mark, we'd
your
love to
magical
talk to you.
pivot.
Okay, here's your would you rather.
Okay.
Would you rather have a job that you secretly hated, but it pays all your bills? Or do something that you love every day, but you never get a day off?
Oh, something that I love and I never get a day off. Hands down. Listen, I chose to be an actor and I moved to New York City. Like, I was poor for so long, right? And the belief in yourself and the belief in, like, doing something you love. Life's too short. And doing this podcast.
I know, but
like,
you never
I love
you
it.
never get to go on vacation?
If I'm doing something
Never
I
get
love,
to go on a vacation ever again.
if I'm doing something I love, it's okay. I will be fueled.
Wow. Okay.
Doing something you
Okay.
hate just to make money, I think there's a lot of people in this
Yeah.
country, certainly, I can't speak for the world, but in this country that are in that place. And I would say
Yeah.
to you, if you're in that place, listener, take a deep breath and jump. Meaning, like, try something different, and because you have no idea that when you do something you love, you actually have the opportunity to possibly make a living from it. And if you can imagine a life where you make a living doing something you love, there's nothing better.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's nothing better.
So true. What a nice note to end on.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for having this discussion with me.
Of course. Thank
This
you,
was
Kirby, for giving us all this information, being willing to share the incredible work that you are doing, not only you in Louisiana, but the United for Alice in 39 states and D.C. Please like, subscribe, and follow wherever you get your podcast. And we also are realizing day by day, week by week, we are creating this We've Got to Talk community, and we are so appreciative when you write to us and you share your frustrations, you share your joys. Do us a favor and share us with a friend. Each time you share with a friend, a conservative friend, a liberal friend, our community gets bigger. And the silent majority that Jolene was just talking about, that we're so tired and over it and we're not going to deal with the nonsense anymore, that silent majority no longer is silent. We become a huge We've Got to Talk community, and we will welcome you and be kind to you and listen to you and take your thoughts into account so that then we can share with everyone who listens and watches us each week. Oh, dollface. It's time to say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We've Got to Talk is produced across the world by the wildly talented, creative, and hilarious team at Bambi Media. Our theme song is Jump Jive Swing by Space Train Unlimited. Thank you so much for listening, and join us every week for another episode of We've Got to Talk.